Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. We got a lot of cool things going on here at the Roofing Success Podcast. We just launched the new website, roofingsuccesspodcast.com. There'll be a link in the description. And we're also moving all of the Roofing Success Podcast content to a new YouTube channel. While we're working on this, I wanted to provide you with a special episode. Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast, your go-to source for insights and inspiration to achieve ultimate success in your roofing business. I'm your host, Jim Ahlin, the co-author of Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and the best-known roofer and the co-founder of Roofer Marketers. As part of the leadership team for the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance, I'm here to bring you the best from the industry. In each episode, I sit down with top industry leaders to dive into their strategies and valuable lessons to help you find success in roofing. Today's episode is a special training that Adam Bensman did for a small group of contractors that we referred to as Roofing Success Insiders. So with no further ado, I'll let you check out Adam's training here on the success formula. You know, why salespeople need crystal clear direction and a sales strategy to follow, the biggest mistakes that most companies make when running and growing their sales team, and how to create high performance sales environment that serves customers better, how to hold your team accountable and bring in sales every single month. So this is going to help you utilize Adam's success formula to scale your team. So while we're doing some work in the back end and moving everything from one YouTube channel to the next and building out the website, I want to bring you this special training from Adam Bensman. We could get started. So the format of this is Adam is bringing us a presentation of his success formula for training and retaining, I think, salespeople, maybe even hiring salespeople. I can't remember the exact details. I'll let him work on that. And then, so he'll present, but this is an open workshop, right? This is for everyone here. You know, questions, if you have questions, you know, please feel free to answer, you know, ask them. We'll save some time at the end for a kind of a more deep dive into Q&A. But yeah, so I'll turn it over to Adam Bensman, the Roof Strategist. One of the people that I value the most in the industry, in the sales training side of roofing, because he just puts out some amazing content. And if you haven't listened to him, you'll hear it today. Adam, thanks for jumping on, man.
Cool. Jim, thanks again for having me here. This was fun being part of the growth and seeing you invest in your people. Good people in this industry are tough to come by, and Jim's one of them. So everybody, good morning. How's everyone doing before we jump in?
Wonderful.
Good. Eric, am I pronouncing your name properly?
Yeah, that's right. It's perfect.
Perfect. And Katie, good to have you. I know you're muted. Michael, Ray, and Aaron. How many salespeople are you guys running? Show of fingers or hands. How many people on your teams? One.
Ray, how many do you guys have over there?
We've got 3.
One,
Aaron,
cool.
Aaron, how many salespeople are you running? Are you still doing all the sales over there yourself, or do you have?
Yeah, me and the girl that runs it. Yeah, so basically her. Really nobody. Okay. She does it all.
All right,
we need them bad.
Does anyone have any growth plans for bringing more people in? Which, by the way, is not always the answer. I just need to get that out of the way. But I'm curious. Is anyone here planning on hiring or bringing people in?
If Roofer Marketers gets me more leads, I'll hire more people.
Jim, the weight's on your shoulders.
We'll put it on us. Let's go.
We were killing it for like October and November, and then December like fell off.
You mean winter in New Jersey? I wonder why.
Yeah. Big mystery there. So cool. Well, this is helpful. The good news is you guys are getting this information early on enough, because let me tell you, I ran a sales team of 30, and making changes when you have that many people is not easy and it's not fun. So you're getting this at the perfect opportunity to use this as you grow. I'm going to jump in. So what I'm going to be doing, if I'm looking over, I've got my notes pulled up on here so I don't skip ahead too fast, which I have a tendency to do, is helping you unleash the highest performance from your sales team. This is going to apply whether you have one person, whether you have 40 people. I literally ran the same training for a sales team of 40. I worked with them 5 years ago, and there was about 8 of them. There's now 40. They're on track to do between 30 and 35 million this year. And they are now adopting the things I'm teaching you as their standard protocol for how they're going to be holding their team accountable to following these sales approaches to generate business. Quick background on this in case you guys haven't met me or heard of me. And by the way, Sean, welcome. And whoever else just joined, welcome.
Ed jumping in too.
Ed, good to have you here. Sitting outside in what looks like good weather. I'm jealous. I'm looking out at
Florida.
snow.
Down in Florida. Ed's just making us all jealous down in Florida there.
Yeah, I believe it. So my name's Adam Bensman, the Roof Strategist. I fell into this industry, as many of you probably did, kind of on accident. I didn't grow up thinking, I'm going to get in roofing sales. I fell into it out of sheer desperation. I was a massage therapist earning below poverty level wages, about 19 grand a year, and living in an expensive place where my rent and utilities was $1,200 a month. So when you do the math and you take out taxes, it was a struggle. So I fell into this door-to-door sales thing and heard you could make 6 figures selling roofs. I thought it was a total hoax. So I go out, start knocking doors. And just like most people, my training was, here's a shirt, here's some business cards, go generate some business. And I struggled because we all do. And the analogy I use is kind of like, if you are running a factory, what's the main goal of a factory? Maximize output, right? With the least input so we can keep costs down. So if I hired a factory worker and I said, here, welcome to the factory, go in there, you're going to produce widgets. I need a maximum capacity output, go do it. That person is going to run around like a chicken with their head cut off without clear directions as to what to do. And that's the biggest fault with this industry. And it's because we're all so busy. So I did what most people do. I did the things where I worked hard, which everyone wants to do. And then I put in the time, right? Or I put in the hours. And when I started doing this, my results at first, it took me 6 weeks to make my first sale. After that, it was wildfire, but it took me a long time. And again, I was figuring it out. And I realized after growing a team that I had 2 camps of people. I had the people that I just said, hey, you can do 6 figures in this industry, flexible hours, work your own schedule, tons of freedom. And the salespeople would either sink or they would thrive. But unfortunately, the ones that thrived was like 1 in 10. And I said, what's wrong with people? Like, this industry changed my life. It can do the same for you. And they just wouldn't do it because they would either work hard or they wouldn't, or they'd put in the hours. But I realized that you can do this on all the wrong things. If I'm in the factory working hard, I can be pulling all the wrong levers and using the wrong devices and running around back and forth instead of being efficient. And same thing of putting in the hours. You can put in long hours. And I've watched people do this. They'll put in all the hours. And I work so hard and so long, but they're doing everything at the wrong time. Like when your salesperson is in the office at 3 o'clock on right before prime selling time, putting together an estimate of doing the follow-up, like, get out of here. This is not the time for you to be doing this. So this is through my own experience, being out door to door in the trenches, training teams, growing my own team, and then now training teams across the US. I realized that if we don't give our salespeople or our team or our company or even ourselves an actual formula to follow, sales will never, ever, ever reach the top, period. You cannot argue this is certain fact because your salespeople are figuring it out on their own, which is what everybody does too. Here's your basic selling. Here's how to talk. Here's what we do. Here's the basic ideas. Go do it. And their potential, when I say unleash potential, I mean, it's kind of like if we look at salespeople as a product for our business, the output is never going to be at peak potential until we help give them the environment to pull it out. So that's what led to all this. A couple other just quick notes, and then I'm going to get into the nitty gritty to introduce this framework to you, is when I was out door to door, I started to do what everybody does. You go slam 60, 100 doors, you're in the wrong neighborhood. or you're in the right neighborhood, no one's home. And then you're like, okay, well, I already worked that one, so now I'm going to go to this one. And it's always this like grass is greener on the next side. Has anyone heard or experienced this from their salespeople or themselves, just going out and like no traction there, and then you hop to the next one? Yeah. So this mentality is what everybody does. And it is sucking money from the business. I mean it. And this shift, if you get one thing from this, it is about having a deep dive approach into becoming the neighborhood roofer. That should be your sole focus, blinders on with everything. The leads you get from Jim to close are going to apply in this. Anyone that's self-generating leads, door knocking, direct mail, this all applies. So I finally realized after I was burning through gas for 6 weeks, working this storm, $2,000 to my name. And I was like, well, I'm at the door. No one's home. So was that a wasted opportunity? Did I drive all this way to go and walk here, knock on this door? I hate knocking doors and then nothing. No. So how do I turn these missed opportunities into something that I can turn into a sale? So I started to be like, oh, well, I'll leave a letter at the door. And then I started to refine the letter till it started to work and get callbacks. And then I'd say, oh, well, then when I show up, I hate door knocking. How can I change this to be a conversation? Oh, I can mention that thing at the door. But then as the storms got busy and there was a million things on the door, I started to print them on plain paper so they stood out. So I started to find all these little subtle things to do to optimize the either callback rate or touch point, and putting it all together into this cohesive plan that, all right, well, I'll leave the letter, but I'll also send a letter in the mail. That way, when I show back up after every single home on this block, I have knocked, I've left a letter, I've sent a letter in the mail, I show back up, and everything shifted because I was, as Jim puts it, omnipresent in the field with everybody. People were seeing me. I had credibility, even though I hadn't done a roof yet. And every time I showed back up, it was to start a conversation. It wasn't just cold. It was the reason I'm here is, and I could tell them, the reason I'm here is I sent you a letter in the mail and I'd like to ask what questions you had about it. The reason I'm here is I just installed Peggy's roof. The reason I'm here is we're doing Jim's roof today. The reason I'm here is last week we did John's roof. And everything was specific to that homeowner that shifted everything from being salesy to simply starting a conversation and selling like a doctor. And when I made this approach, it helped me train teams to go through what everybody feels like as a salesperson. I shouldn't say everybody, not everybody feels like this, but a lot of our people, they feel sleazy. And there's this big thing that just murders confidence. And they say, I'm not confident going up to doors. I feel like I'm intrusive. I hate door knocking, because they feel like they're showing up to sell. So with a proper system in place and the right approach, you're not only getting maximum efficiency, but you're overcoming all of the demons of the individual sales rep. And their demons are confidence. If they are not out producing, you're not making money. They're not making money. And the beautiful thing is when interests align, him or her, the sales rep, produces, they're happy, they're going to stick around, you make money, everybody wins. So let's jump in. If I were to tell you, and I'm going to use weight loss as an example, because everybody has experienced at some point some goal of fitness, weight loss, whatever. If I gave you a plan that a doctor put together that was tested and proven and said, if you eat this, monitor your calories, and you follow this workout regimen, would we all agree that if everybody stuck to the plan, they would in fact get results? Is this a statement that we can agree with? Yes. With rare exception, some medical issues here and there, but 9 out of 10 times they will succeed. So if the person decides to have cheat meal every other day and skip a third of the workouts, they're not going to have the results. And it's the same approach if we look at all of the elite. I started to just observe elite performing athletes. Everyone goes in and they practice, they rehearse, they put themselves into a real world scenario, and they go over the same things with repetition until it becomes natural. They know what they need to work on. They follow a plan. When they do, they reach the top. No one gets brought on as an NFL linebacker and says, get out there and work hard, hit the gym when you want. You know when to strength train. You know when to work on your cardio. You know when to work on your plays. It doesn't work like that. They're told and rehearsed to practice the plays. So no matter how you look at this, from factory worker to weight loss to elite level athlete, the same concept applies. You need to give someone the path to success, to succeeding. How can you make the most sales in the least amount of time? How can you take advantage of every single sales opportunity? And to me, I thought this was glaringly obvious. And when I started to run sales meetings for people. And this is a true story. From 2 weeks ago, I ran this for that sales team of 40. I asked on there in front of the owner, I told him I was going to do this. I said, I want everybody here to raise your hand with the number of fingers, showing me how many referrals you asked for this week. It was crickets. You would see this. 1 or 0, and everyone looking around, absolutely shameful. I have done this on stages. I have done this at conferences. I have done this in private sessions, and it is the same results. You'll have your couple of people that will say, oh, I did it a few times. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is no one believes it. And then they see it and they're like, that was disgustingly overwhelming. How, like, we all know this is the easiest thing to do. Go ahead, Eric.
Hey, Adam, so question for you. Are you asking for the referrals before the roof is completed?
I begin it, yes. And I'll explain how and why. Because there's 3 ways. I'll dive into that. I wasn't planning on it, but I'll dive into it.
And now another question for you. So now that we're getting into a world of, like, we're barely ever presenting in front of the customer anymore. Mm-hmm. It's either virtual or it's like, it's almost like a shame to say, but like, it's almost like going out, you do a quick meet, walking around the house, and you know, and you're sending them a proposal.
Yep. Won't be a problem.
Changed in the last couple of, in the last year.
I'll dive into this detail at the appropriate times. I'm putting it up here. Remind me and pull me back into it if you see fit or if I forget. So now we're going to get into the actual framework of what this looks like. And there's 2 frameworks to follow in order to generate the most sales. The first is getting leads, right? Or getting sales appointments. Okay. And then the next one is actually closing those deals. Where do we want to start? There's separate frameworks for each. We're going to hit both. Do you guys have a preference on which one we start with?
Start from getting the lead, because you can't sell anything if you don't have any leads.
I like that. That's a good approach. Believe it or not everyone goes that way, but we're going to do it today. So when we are out there, does anyone here that's selling retail, does anyone door knock or self-generate leads, or are they mostly inbound? If you do knock, I'm going to touch on it. If you don't, I'm going to breeze through it. Just
watch this. It's live right now. Okay, it's live.
I'll mute him. Thank you, Jim. All right, so we'll start on this. I'll assume door knocking as part of it, but I'm going to breeze through that aspect. So when we are out in the field, where's this? There's essentially 6 different stages of the customer experience that provide incredibly rich opportunities for us to generate business. We're going to start with the first one, which is opening a new neighborhood. I'm calling it a hood for cheap or for short, so I don't have to write so much because my handwriting is awful. And I'll switch colors. So we got to open up a new neighborhood. For a new salesman, this is their first sale. Okay. For a seasoned salesperson, it's either like a new storm that hits for anyone that's working storm. If it's a retail lead coming in, it's your first traction in that. So it's that first sale in the neighborhood. So we are either going to get this again inbound or self-generated. And what I want to just touch on briefly is the self-generated aspect of the most efficient time if we're out there, because the same concepts are going to apply what we do beyond this. After we get our first sale or open up the neighborhood, we'll move on to the other 5 stages through the customer. And that, Eric, is where I'll mention the referral program, which Jim and I actually talked about on the interview. So self-generated. There are checklists that I follow. I have mine printed out. They look like this. They tell a rep exactly what to do because it's a nice reminder. I found that checklists can be integrated into any CRM that you're using, or they can be printed out. I know that there's a lot of salespeople in this industry that are technologically disabled and they struggle with these things. And I don't want any sort of barrier to them getting out and making sales. So I'm a checklist guy. So on the checklist, it says, use the canvassing tracker to document where you've been. That is incredibly important. You can use Spodio, you can use Sales Rabbit, you can use interactive hail maps, anything that will monitor addresses. You want to know where they are. So we show up, we knock, and then we have a decision tree. Yes or no, are they home? If they're not home, we're going to leave a letter. I'm giving you the fast version of this so we can get through it all in today's training. There's a reason that I leave letters and not door hangers. The first thing I would do if I was you is throw out every door hanger that you ever designed and printed. They do nothing. Has anyone here gotten a call back from those door hangers? Aaron has. Great. Eric, maybe. Try, I'm very curious. If you write your letters on plain paper and you fold them up and you just put a little blue ink and you put a smiley face and you stick it in the door, this gets open because people's curiosity overtakes them. I actually did a video on that posted on my YouTube channel today. The first thing is to get them to open it. Unless someone is in that buying decision of needing a roof, the minute they see an overly designed flyer with a roof picture, they know it's a solicitation, it goes in the trash. I want them to be curious to at least open. It's a micro commitment. They're going to start reading. So I personally believe in letters. Yes, door hangers, a few people here and there will say they've had success. It's also not as important as using this as part of the entire strategy. So I knock, if no one's home, I leave a letter. Then when I'm back in the office, I send a letter in the mail. Okay. Now, I know because I was standing in front of that house that this is a ripe opportunity. I've identified retail. We've got a 3-tab shingle, a crumbling shingle, an old home, an old T-lock, whatever the case may be that's telling me it needs to get replaced. So I'm going to send this letter in the mail. It's a targeted lead. Same thing, which I can share with you guys. I've done a bunch of videos on that. I use plain white paper, no header, big headline that says, I stopped by your house and noticed this and wanted to bring it to your attention, ... Then it goes into the body of the letter, what I can do for you. And I don't put any information about the roofing company because I don't want them to know who it's from. They need to read it to figure it out because people's curiosity will take over them and they will read to find out who sent them the letter. I also hand address and hand stamp them. I personally use blue ink because it pops. And on the return address, I don't put my name. I only put the address or no address because I want them to be wondering who sent me this letter in the mail that was clearly handwritten. And then they're going to read the headline and say, who in the heck was at my house and noticed something and what are they trying to show me? So now I've left this, I've left the letter. I send the letter in the mail. Now I knock again. I'm a big fan of formulas. I hate scripts personally. I think scripts make people feel like a robot. No one memorizes scripts. There's language and dialects that you do that are in Florida that aren't in Maryland, that aren't in Pennsylvania, and then Chicago's different. Pop, soda, all these different things are different. Everybody gets away with different language, and no one memorizes a script word for word. So I believe in formulas. This is my canvassing formula. Say hi, break the ice. Hey, my name's Adam. By the way, beautiful boat in the driveway, whatever the case may be. Let them know why I'm there. Hey, the reason I'm stopping by is I sent you a letter in the mail the other day. Okay. A, ask an open-ended question, which I simply say, what questions did you have for me about that letter? So it's not a yes or no, because they can kick you off the doorstep. P, present to their answer. They're either going to say, what are you talking about? I got your letter. I meant to call you, whatever the case is. And then I can address by P presenting that. Oh, the letter. Okay, you didn't get it. No biggie. Glad I stopped by. I've been working with Peggy, talking with your neighbors, blah, blah, blah. Here's what I can do for you. So this is all about simply starting a conversation. Now, at this point, I'm either going to get a yes or a no. If I get a no, it's still not a no to me. But I've at least had 1, 2, 3, 4 touches on the same house. Instead of that wasted effort and going to the next neighborhood, I've had 4 touches, which is the same as all the rest of the neighbors. Very quickly, you get traction. And the beautiful part, as we see how this continues, is this process we simply repeat at different stages with different messaging for the neighborhood. So when we do this, what will happen is you will get calls off these letters. You'll see a 1 to 10% response rate. I know that's a very big difference, but it all depends on the present, all the omnipresence they see online, all the presence they see in the neighborhood. Have you done a roof or not? Is it the right homes? Are you do they actually need a roof? So the quality of the list is really important. What will happen is you'll get a lead off this. You'll go sign it up. You go talk to the neighbor. And I got an email or a text message from a guy. He texts me. He says, thanks. You made me $5,000 today. I just started following the system. I sent a letter, got a lead, knocked next door, used the SLAP formula, asked about the letter. They said that she had it and she'd been meaning to call, but didn't yet because it sat on that stack in the kitchen. He signed her up and then ended up opening up the neighborhood, and it's all 60 square monster homes in South Carolina. Beautiful margins. So again, efficient framework to follow. High level. When we monitor those addresses, by the way, it just allows us to know that we're not abandoning ship too soon. You know where your team is, and you know which letters to mail because you have the address. There's plenty of resources out there to get homeowner data, Spotio, interactive hail maps, hail trace, coal information. I use hunting apps because they're cheap. And they have private property data. You click it, tells you the owner name. So different tools for that. So now bingo. We've knocked, we've opened up a new neighborhood, we've made our first sale or sales appointment. I know we have to close that, which we'll get to, but any questions on this part yet?
2 questions.
Yep.
One, when you send your letter, do you customize every letter for every house of what you saw?
No.
Oh, okay. So
I have different letters that are already canned and prepared. So
okay.
I'll give you an example. One will say,
from your house.
Yep. So there's some, I have some, if I'm targeting 3-tab roofs, for example, I have a letter that mentions specifically
Gotcha.
3-tab. I have a letter for discontinued shingles. I have a letter that I'll use if I know for storm area, those that are working storm, that's on the fringe. Was your claim denied or underpaid? I don't care if it was. If a majority of people are, it's going to start a conversation. I've even experimented with going up to the door and said, hey, I've been helping folks who've had their claim denied. How's the process been for you? And they'll be like, oh, we weren't denied. We're waiting to pick a roofer. I'm so glad I'm here. I can help also. It doesn't matter. I'm channeling that conversation to start. So it's about pairing the right message. I did have a guy, I have a few people using this that will bring their blue pen with them. And if they're leaving these letters during COVID, some people didn't want to deal with postage. I didn't invent this strategy. It was from someone in my audience. They brought blue painter's tape and they taped the letter to the door. And they would just do one little thing like nice, whatever. They'd mention something about the house just to give it a touch. Or PS saw that, you know, there's shingles laying in your backyard, whatever the case is. And they were getting calls off of it. One guy got a call within 20 minutes of walking away. Will that work every time? Of course not. It's not, you know, you can't expect miracles out of the gate, but these things do happen. And yes, Eric, customize the letter to the appropriate scenario. I've used some that say I drove by on the way to the customer's house or on the way from my customer's house. You'll see later, I'll talk about the install. I'll send a big one saying courtesy notice for neighbors on, and then a street name if I'm hitting that street because it captures their attention. So how we phrase that message and lay it out is really important. All right. Any other questions on cracking open that neighborhood? And then obviously if you got a self-lead it come in, go ahead.
The letter you mail out, what do you put in it?
That is a great question. The main thing I want to do is get them to be curious enough till they get to the point where I tell them who I am and how I can help. So for example, top is just a bold headline that says, I drove by your house and noticed this. I stopped by your house and saw this. Or I wanted to stop by, but I'm respecting social distancing, so I'm sending you this instead. All those different hooks are just going to get them reading. And then I'll say, dear homeowner, if I have their name, I'll plug it in. But if not, I'll leave it blank. And then I'll proceed saying, I just drove by your house and on the way back from my customer. It's a key phrase because it's showing that I'm credible. I'm working with someone in the neighborhood, right? Then, you know, I noticed this on your roof. And if it doesn't get addressed, this could happen. But I can help. If you'd like complimentary inspection, here's what I can do. I'm going to take photos, videos, put together an assessment for you, and I'll let you be the judge on what those next steps might be. Contact me today while I'm in the neighborhood for your free 30-minute consult or inspection, and however you want to do it. Here's my name, number, call. Super simple. So that way they don't see it at the bottom. Your signature on the letter can say who you are, but I personally avoid logos and stuff. I want them to feel like I took this incredible amount of time to reach out to them. And that's what makes those letters as effective as possible. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I do letters, but I was just curious of like
Sure.
how to tweak them and make them better.
Yeah. They, if you want to email me yours, I'll take a look at it and send you some feedback too. Happy to. All right. So then we talked about turning this one sale into many. We have key touch points to take advantage of. First is a new customer, meaning they have given us money. We have a contract. Boom, they're added to our CRM. We officially earn their business. Then when the job is scheduled, then on install day, then when install is done, and then when it's paid in full. We always use PIF as an example, as just shorthand. So these are the main stages of the sale that are both relevant touch points for the customer to enhance the customer experience, which in my opinion is forefront because they're the ones that write our checks. So I want to maximize my customer experience, maximize my sales, and minimize all the nightmares that occur when my salesman forgets to tell them to take grandma's urn off the fragile shelf that's on the side of the house when we're running nail guns and smashing on things. So I learned the hard way through these mistakes when we broke some Italian marble table that was imported in $15,000 and something fell that vibrated because we forgot to do it, or the 4 brand new BMW tires we replaced because the tire shop said all 4 needed to get done from the flat tire. Have you guys had these things, these joyful things of being a roofing business owner? Yeah, they're not pleasant. So I approached this in a way of control because I'm a nut, and I said I want every customer being treated the same way. I want to make sure that stupid mistakes don't happen because then it costs us money, me time, and the homeowner's upset. And I know that's going to help my salespeople make the most sales. So I'm going to touch on this high level, and so we have time to get into the closing part. But for a new customer, there's a few key things, and Eric, this is where we're going to jump into the referral piece. Number 1, who here is reaching out to the insurance agent of every customer they serve? Anybody? Cool. So the second golden nugget you will get from this is to introduce yourself to the insurance agent of every customer. Yes, this applies for both storm and retail. This is the easiest and most valuable networking opportunity that will ever fall in your plate. Because if you do 200, 300, 1,400 roofs in a year, and you reach out just to the insurance agent with a really beautiful letter that says, serving a mutual client - their name. Do you think they're going to open it? Yes. And it says, hey, just letting you know, we're serving a mutual customer. I wanted to make myself available to you as I know that the replacement of the roof may have implications on their policy. And I realize, by the way, if no matter what, it has implications, retail or storm. If it's storm related, I mentioned, and I realize this is a fragile opportunity for your client going through this process, and I'd like to make myself available to help. If you need anything, let me know. And if you want me to keep you up to date or send you photos so you can update your file, please respond to this email. It's that simple. You call to follow up. If you do this with every insurance agent, and even if you do 100 jobs and you get 2 people, we were doing about 3 million in sales from 3 separate agents that were sending us work. And no, we did not pay a dime because it's not legal or ethical. It was simply to help. And we provided additional value to them. Hey, we can run out and do an inspection beforehand. People that are replacing their roof electively, one of the first people they call is their insurance agent for a recommendation. I don't know why, but they do. Many times, especially now, as deductibles skyrocket, they're asking questions about class 4 shingles or metal roofing or any specialty products. So if they have wood shake, they know their premiums are going to go down because they don't live in a tinderbox anymore. So they'll reach out to the agent. It's very simple. You just ask the customer, hey, and you look like a hero, by the way, to the customer. So I get the insurance agent info, and then I'll reach out to them and say, hey, we're serving a mutual customer. Here's how I can help. By the way, we offer priority service to the agents that we work with. These relationships, go set appointments, talk with these people. They will become a referral pipeline that is more valuable than anything you can be doing. Sorry, Jim. That was just for fun. So first thing I do, and by the way, I tell the homeowner I'm doing this to reach out on your behalf because I want your insurance company to know your roof's replaced, what type is on there. So any details of your coverage are up to date and accurate. And especially for retail, because otherwise they don't know. And then you're up to the adjuster's discretion. And if there's a loss later, then you're dealing with paperwork and proving when it was done and all this nightmare. All right. At this point, we also ask for referrals. Yes, Eric, before anything happens, which many people don't agree with me on. I'll teach you my method of doing this and why I do it up front, and then I'll let you choose if you wish to do it up front or not. When I ask for referrals, and I make the team do this because they're incompetent to ask, and they've proven it on the hundreds of people I've asked and show that they won't, even though they know it's the easiest sale. So I have a printed sheet that explains our referral program that goes into the packet that the customer gets. And I introduce them to the referral program. I also, with the new customer, send a welcome email. You're going to see this process is stupid simple because it essentially repeats through these different stages with different messaging. So I send this welcome email, which you can automate in your CRM if you're already sending an email, to control what the customer needs to know. They always want to know what's going to happen next. Thank them for the business. Here's what happens next. Here's when you will hear from us next, when our next communication is. Here's what you should do to prepare. By the way, we'd love to invite you to our referral program. The program that I use, I could do a 3-hour presentation on, is very simple. $25 as a thank you for referring me to anyone that I sit down and speak with. It is not contingent upon the deal going through. It is simply immediate. If you tell me about your neighbor, John, and I go meet with John, I just want to give you a $25 gift card as a thank you. You can do local. I used to buy them in bulk at a local restaurant, and I worked in a storm market. I surveyed some customers. They said, this is our favorite restaurant. So I walked over there. I said, I got $3,000 to spend. How much will you mark down a $25 gift card? I got them for $15 a piece. It helped him market. And then I got leads at $15 a piece for hot leads. And I would have sales guys come to the office and ask for 8 gift cards for one customer. 8 $15 leads that are hot referrals. I don't care. So many roofing companies do this backwards. I'll pay you $300 if we get the job, if it's paid in full, and then I'll pay you in like 12 weeks when it's done. And then the homeowner's like, how are you making so much money off me? Why are you paying me $300? So thank you gift. It's not this is not buying a Rolodex. This is for our conversation, it's an appointment, but for their sake, it's an opportunity to just sit down and talk with someone. And I let them know whether or not we end up doing business, because no one wants to throw their friends into a sales situation. Like, oh, talk to this guy or gal. I might earn a couple $100. It doesn't really make people feel super good. So I introduce them to this program. Eric, the other thing that I do to ease into this, there's a key part to ease into this. Number one is when I am introducing this, I just say, hey, I just want to introduce you to our referral program. But before I do, I just want to ask you, have you been happy with the level of service I've provided with you so far? And they say yes, because they just decided to do business with you and gave you a check for a few grand. So when they say yes, say, awesome. I'd love the opportunity to help and I list. So they think any of your friends, family members, neighbors, or coworkers. I want to give them the framing to think of those people who we may be able to help. And as a thank you, we'd love to treat you to dinner or a $25 gift card just for the opportunity to chat with them. It doesn't even matter if we do business. It's up to them. So that's how I introduce it. Then I ask, who do you know that we might be able to help? Very casually, open-ended question. And then I wait. And then if they don't answer, I click my pen and I say, I'll ask you next time. And now it's a reference because they have the sheet. So I've introduced them to the program. The next thing I'm going to do is ask for the neighbors' names, by the way. I go into that in my closing strategy. And I say, hey, do you know any neighbors? I'm just going to go knock on the door and introduce myself, because if anything comes their way, any debris, I want them calling me and not you. Now, you and I both know that chances are they're not going to call their neighbor, but people like to be neighborly. Now I have their name, and it's easy for me to walk next door and say, are you Jim? Oh, Jim, I'm doing Jill's roof over there. The reason I'm stopping by, we're going to be doing her roof in a couple of weeks, blah, blah, blah. And then you go into your spiel. So you get soft referrals by neighbor's name, introduce a referral program, get an insurance agent, send a welcome email with the referral program. This is all literally minutes of time while you have their attention. Cool. So now, as you can see, networking opportunities are growing. Referrals will begin to happen because they're not being asked for now, whether we want to believe that or not. And we have another referral touch point and good service and are controlling the experience. Cool. When the job is scheduled, oh, by the way, then we go work the neighbors using the SLAP formula. And then the same rinse, repeat. Leave the letter if they're not home, send the letter in the mail. But now you have a relevant reason to be there. Hey, my name's Adam. And breaking the ice. Oh, by the way, I just compliments go a long way when they're sincere. Find something that's meaningful to them. If they have a gorgeous vegetable garden or exotic flower garden, mention it. There's pride behind that. Let them know why I'm there. Hey, the reason I'm stopping by, we just got underway on a new roof project for the neighbor, meaning their name. Ask an open-ended question. For retail, easiest one is, when was the last time you had your roof inspected and routine maintenance conducted? No one has an answer to this, by the way, and that's why you use this question, because then they say routine maintenance inspected, and then they're thinking, which is great. And then you just sit there silent, and then they're like, I don't know. Oh, great. Well, I'm glad I stopped by. I actually have my ladder with me, and Jill's roof, she didn't know either. And it turned out that it was in need of some repair. And at first we thought repair and elected to replace it since the age, it just doesn't really make sense. But do you have any objection if I hop up for a complimentary inspection? I'll take some photos and videos and show you what I find. And then using that line, do you have any objection? You get a negative agreement because they want to say no. So when they say no, it actually means yes. And that one line change in your approach will increase the take rate of those inspections. So you knock the door, you've got this relevant time to be there, you're starting conversations, your salespeople don't feel salesy. All right, and then again, leave the letter, send the letter. You can see here that we are just totally dominating the neighborhoods because as we progress, it continues. For time's sake, when the job is scheduled, it's the same touch point. Email goes out. We're going to go knock the doors. And now we have another reason to be there. We've sent a letter. We've had a letter at the door. They've seen us in the neighborhood. They see our yard sign. We show up again, try to make contact and say, hey, by the way, we're doing their roof. If any debris comes in your yard, I want to give you my card. Please call me. If anything comes up, we take care of the neighbors as we do our customers. And then I teach the fake walk away. While I'm here, and then I ask my question. So they don't feel like they're being sold. The little fake walk away just softens things. I know it's a bit of an act, but it works very well. Install day, same approach. Customer email goes out, with job scheduled so they know to park their car in the right place, all that. Install day, working it the same way, okay? Install done, this is where I'm getting back, I'm sending that email so they know what to expect. Your job's done, the warranty will come in the mail. If you have any questions, call me. I used to be afraid to ask customers if things were wrong. And then I started to just try to pry it out as fast as possible. And then I don't know if you guys do this, but I had a post-install walkthrough I do with the homeowner that they sign off on. And I have before and after pictures because I spent too much time with our attorney with silly people because we did high volume. High volume means you run into things. Like the guy that says that you damaged his gutter, even though it was damaged in the picture before and he signed off on it. And then his attorney tells you that those photos are fabricated for an $800 gutter. So I try to put in these checks and balances to control things. And then when the install is done, same thing, relevant message to the neighbors, relevant letter in the mail. And then when it's done and paid in full, the homeowner gets letters again. The homeowner gets the neighborhood worked. You send letters to the neighbors that say, we've done the roof next door. So now this neighbors, I drove by and saw this. Then they get another letter that says, we did the neighbor's roof. I have a third letter I use, which is a follow-up for another touch point. Oftentimes that third letter gets the calls because of repetition. So when we layer all these on, you can see that there's literally no opportunity that is untapped from every angle. And when you document what needs to happen on these things, it is very easy to hold your team accountable. My approach to doing that is they do not get the job started until they turn in my multi-touch marketing checklist to know that they followed the best procedure to open up that deal. And then as soon as they sign the customer, they need to turn this in. And I don't start processing the job till it's done. Money is a good motivator. They want their commission, so they're going to get it done. Then I didn't pay full commissions till everything was turned in, indicating that it's done. Yeah, you'll have people that occasionally might try to cheat the system. You'll catch them in time. I don't worry about trying to block all these things all the time. It's just people, right? So that was a crash course in this framework, which I call the complete sales strategy because it leaves no stone unturned and allows your team to maximize their sales efforts in the field, whether you do it or someone else, keeps them focused, and most importantly, keeps their time centralized. And if you are running your own crews or you have your team on salary and you're paying for gas and wear and tear on a vehicle, I promise you the time in and out of the same neighborhood every day or 2 or 3 neighborhoods is much different than their tendency to go grass is greener and they're putting in windshield time because they're just working hard and they think that because they're putting in the time driving, they're making sales when they're not. So any questions on this? Cool. Any thing you disagree with? I'm curious. Cool. Well, now you can start using it. I'm going to give you the closing formula very quickly because we are running on time and I want to save time for questions. The key takeaways, if we were just to grab a few things, get your team in the same neighborhood with repetition, combine multiple touch points to make it easy. People don't make decisions. They are distrusting than ever. Everybody knows. I don't think anyone on here, I'm not trying to open a political can of worms, but if I said, do you trust our government? How many people are going to say, unwaveringly so? There's been tremendous amount of consistency in policy these days. No. So people just inherently distrust. It's growing. So the more repetition equals more familiarity. So layer on your door knocking, and even if you're doing retail, at least working those neighborhoods, it doesn't have to be cold, cracking when open. Letters at the door, letters at the mail, insurance agents, and referral program. And if you integrate those into these key stages, it is a mathematical fact that you will make more sales because it is more targeted efforts. Just like if you amped your budget up with Jim, your reach is going to go up, you're going to get more leads. It really is that formulaic. So let's jump in to closing. If you can't read my handwriting, that says car park, CARPARK. Again, I'm a big fan of formulas because step-by-step presentations are very good. They're powerful. But the problem where they fall short is they need to be customized exactly to the homeowner's need. And what happens when you see large companies attempt to scale through canned pitches, canned presentations, is they feel salesy, they're not catered to the homeowner's needs, and they're very difficult for a salesperson to adopt naturally. Just like a professional football team needs to learn how to read a play change on the field and then throw an audible on the line. This is taking in real live time feedback and adjusting. With a canned presentation, you will watch. I've had the opportunity to run a lot of sales presentations as a silent observer. I have a baby face. I look like I'm 12 years old. I was the youngest person in the company running a big team. So I could run out and be like, I'm the helper. And I would sit back and I'd watch sales presentations. And I would watch the homeowner and the sales rep. And it's a very unique opportunity to be in the field, observing a real-time sale and picking up on things that the other party is entirely blind to. And when a sales rep is caught on their heels, they go deer in the headlights. And then they don't know what to say. And that's when they don't leave with a yes. So when you give them a formula to follow or a framework with key points, just high-level points, it allows them to bring in their own flair. It allows them to have a quick reference talking point. I print everything out. I have mine set up. This is it on a cheat sheet that I've designed in a way that even if a customer sees it, it's not the end of the world. I wouldn't show it to them, but it doesn't say like, now use the Jedi sales trick and get them to break out their wallet. Like it doesn't say any of this stuff. It simply tells them to diagnose the problem and then prescribe a solution before you start selling anything, right? So this is something they can see. So what does this all stand for? C stands for connect. This is the first thing they do on the sales appointment. This is the first thing that 9 out of 10 sales reps overlook. They don't do it. They jump right into business, especially Eric right now, when you mentioned doing presentations in a new format, people just are kind of thrown off. They're like trying to jump into things because on the phone or on Zoom, but you need to just pump the brakes and connect on a human level. The foundation that you build through the CAR before P, which is your presentation or your pitch, will allow you to smooth out any hiccups in your presentation because people buy from people they know, like, and trust. So this is the building likability. Easy framework, compliment something on their home. You'll know what's important to someone. Anything that is nice or different or above ordinary, you'll find a way to comment. If it's their dog, if it's a car, if it's a garden, if it's the interior decor, whatever it is. Compliment them, accept any gifts, glass of water that they offer, anything. It's a friend gesture. So this is kind of our building rapport, 2 or 3 minutes before we get into it. Then we move into the assess phase. This is where we ask the homeowner, why did you call us out? Because in storm work, there's about 7 different mindsets that customer can be in. And on retail, there's about 4. I'll give you the high level. Retail. I want to replace my roof because I'm looking for a cosmetic upgrade. We're doing the siding. We want to update the house. Scenario 2, holy crap, my roof is leaking. My interior is destroyed. Replaced this yesterday. I need help now. Scenario 3 is I am budgeting for 5 to 7 years from now. I know it's going to be expensive, so I want to get some estimates. And then scenario 4 is the, what did I miss? Retail, do it now. Usually some sort of trigger of a home sale. Which one did I miss? I feel like I missed one because I went in the wrong order than I normally do. Yeah, you get the idea. So there's generally about 4. So we need to speak to those. Retail, there's 4 different stages in the claims process. No claim, partial payment, denial, or paid in full. Each of those, with the exception of the last one, has 2 separate mindsets. No claim is, what damage are you talking about? You know, for those lightly damaged areas, or my roof's obliterated, how bad is it? Denied is, my insurance company denied, we're okay, I believe them. Or screw my insurance company, my neighbor's got a new roof, they're screwing me over. Same with with a partial payment. And then paid in full is usually the play your cards close, give me an estimate. So when you know that there's these different scenarios or mindsets the customer's in, you can kind of plug and play. So we ask, where are you at in the process? At this point is where we want to identify and make note of what's going on for them. Oh, they're trying to budget for 5 years from now. So while I'm on the roof, I'm thinking about all the ways to get them to get the roof done now and not later. There's plenty of ways to do that. So we assess what's going on. This is at that point where we hop up on the roof, we do our inspection. And does anyone here have their team focus on the bigger reason to replace the roof? To find, only if it's real, don't fabricate this, but do you guys try to find a larger reason to take action right now? That's another key thing to pick up.
So you're saying like create a sense of urgency.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even need to be urgent, although urgency is a very powerful sales tool. It is simply another reason. In their mind, I either have a claim or a potential storm damage claim, or I'm thinking of replacing my roof. But if you layer on other reasons, now you're creating a more emotional case. I'll give you an example. Finding a cricketless chimney where it's downsloped. You're like, you know, this is really not installed properly. This is an example of something that needs to get done. Plus, that makes you shine. If you find that there's no ice and water shield or drip edge in your market and it's required. If you find that the valleys aren't installed right. If you're finding that pipe boots might be starting to crack, but the rest of the roof's fine. But it's finding other reasons to take action. Again, only if it's authentic. Don't go up there and like try to pull some funny business to push false urgency. But it is giving additional reasons. That is the edge. You know, it's like, oh, I could do that. Oh, well, if I do it, then I can also get this done. I can also get this done. I'll be in this position for later. I will have a warranty. I don't risk a risk. I don't risk a leak. And by the way, rates are going to increase on roofing because they do every year, right? So that's where we assess. Then R is report. This is where when we get off the roof, we show our findings. Another huge opportunity to shift what you do is to frame the. Does anyone know of the sales technique called framing? So it's giving the lens the lens to see what you're about to show them. Easiest way to think of it is, I'm going to show you some pictures of a damaged roof. Chances are it won't look like much to you because a shingle is a shingle is a shingle to an average person. But with a trained eye, what I'm looking for is X, Y, and Z, and here's why people take action to avoid X, Y, and Z problems down the road. Now that you know what it is you're going to see, I'm going to show you the photos. Then as you show the photos, they have context in the lenses that I've given them. And I can ask, do you see what I'm seeing? And they say yes. And now they're in an agreement mode, understanding that their roof has problems. Again, only if it actually does. I'm an ethical salesperson that if I got a lead for retail and the roof's fine, I tell them the roof is fine. Don't do anything, right? But if there is reasons, then we want to show those reasons. It is also at this point where we get invited to the kitchen table. And yes, I mean invited because we use a one-liner and we say, where's a good place for us to sit down and review this paperwork? Review these photos so we're out of the sun. People will invite you in. I know with COVID, it might be different. It could be to the kitchen table. It could be whatever. It could be the next phase. But when that control dynamic shifts and you're invited in, it is game over. You have the deal at that point. And I just had a story come in of a guy that ran this for the first time using this little framing approach, and he got invited in and then went through it. So this is how we get to the kitchen table, okay? After we show this, we ask, would you like to hear how I can help? They say yes, we just got permission to pitch. Most salesmen don't hit this step, and that's what gets homeowners like feeling like it's pushy because they slide into the pitch too soon, okay? So then that brings us to P, which is our presentation. I have an 8-part framework. I don't think we're going to have time today in 2 minutes to get through that. But in a nutshell, you can choose anyone, give them the freedom of choice. Here's why people choose me. show them the testimonials, share some credibility about the company, then explain the process by customizing it based on their assessment. Okay. And then from here, we go through how it works, products, service choices, ask if there's any questions. That's our presentation. It's that simple. 8 steps. When they have no more questions, that's when we ask for the business. There's a formula that I follow to get to that yes. First asking, do you have any more questions? Then I spin a question on them. What's the most important factor for you when it comes to choosing a roofer? I want them to tell me. It could be something silly. I want to protect the pool. I want to make sure my dog can be put in a kennel because she hates noises. And then when I know that answer, if I can fulfill it, great. I'll use the if then close. If we can do the roof, your roof, and accommodate by doing X, Y, and Z, would you be comfortable choosing us as your roofer? And then they say yes. And then you slide it over and you get the business. If they say no, I always say, hey, then what questions do you have? When I get I have to think about it, I say, I've been in this business for a while. Usually when I hear I have to think about it, it only means that I didn't give you enough information to chew on. May I ask you what it is you'd like to think about? That way I can leave you with the right information to think about it. They'll tell you, you repeat. Oftentimes you can overcome the objection on the spot. And then if you can't, you set the follow-up date and time. Never leave into voicemail loop. I bet you most people here who have a sales rep other than them are missing this because they're just waiting for the call back or just trying to call back. That appointment is set. And if they won't let you back in the home, that phone call is set. Okay. Okay, we can still see here. R is your referrals, which I already went over. Insurance agents, neighbors in the program. And then K is kickstarting a 5-star worthy experience. That is setting a very crystal clear promise to your customer that you must fulfill upon with all this and say, I'm committed to delivering you an experience that would make you want to write me a 5-star review. That's my commitment. I want to plant that seed because I want that review when it's done. And I explain what's going to happen next. So they are excited and they're not in the mystery mode and they're not calling the office saying, I don't know what happens next. Joe left my house 3 weeks ago and I haven't heard anything. I used to get those phone calls. I did not like those phone calls. So, and then again, this ties right back into that sales strategy, the new customer, and then we repeat. Very, very, very formulaic and easy to follow. You go through it 1 or 2 times, it becomes natural. And the whole idea is then you're able to sell without following a script, without being pushy, without being salesy. And the team can learn to customize on the fly and they actually learn sales skills as opposed to being a robot.
Thanks for coming on today. Thank you, Adam, for sharing some great information.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.